I promised you that we were going to finish out today's show with a really inspirational young woman. Joining us via Skype right now is Kelly Bron Johnson. She is an adult diagnosed autistic self-advocate and author. She is also hard of hearing. She founded Completely Inclusive, a consultancy based on teaching businesses how to make their workplaces inclusive and accessible to all diverse and disabled people. She's also the board secretary of Promo 21, a nonprofit print shop that hires autistic or individuals with different abilities exclusively. And maybe you need to correct what I just said, I'm not sure. And the board director at Autism Canada, Canada's national autism organization, and we're very thrilled and excited to have her joining us from Canada. So Kelly, first of all, thank you for being here. And I want to start by saying, how important inclusion is to us here at Autism Live. And as soon as we started this interview, I was like, I should have asked you beforehand because you have a hearing issue, and I want to make sure that everything works right. And I think a lot of times ableist thinking gets in the way of a lot of other stuff, and I think you deal with that on a regular basis. So I hope that before we're done, you'll give us some ideas at Autism Live about what we need to be doing to be more inclusive.
Excellent. Okay.
So in any case, thank you and welcome. And why don't you tell our viewers a little bit about you and what mission you are on, because you are very inspirational.
Thank you. Well, I mean, my journey started with a late diagnosis. I grew up not knowing what was different. I was the weird kid. I was the quirky kid. And I did very well in school. As long as I had the structure of school and I was obedient, I knew how to follow the rules. So teachers kind of said, she's kind of withdrawn. She doesn't talk very much. She's very quiet. But she's getting good marks, so we'll leave her be. So nobody really signaled anything. My parents were constantly worried because I was a very picky eater. I had a very, very limited diet, and they didn't know what to do. I think, I grew up in the 80s. It wasn't, in style, I guess, to look for a lot of different supports for your child. They just thought I was kind of strange. And at the same time, too, even now, it's hard for women to get diagnosed. It's not something that is that medical professionals really look for as the first step when they're looking at somebody who has different challenges. So I didn't get diagnosed until my son was diagnosed. He was about 2.5. And then I started to see a lot of similarities. I said, well, this is more than just us being related. And I sought diagnosis, and that was a huge relief for me, because finally I didn't feel broken. I didn't feel wrong anymore. I just realized that I was different. And then I was able to advocate for myself and what I needed and get the proper supports in order to really succeed in life.
Well, and I thank you for telling us that, and so honestly, because first of all, there are a lot of adults that are out there that I know are wondering if they are also on the spectrum. They write into us a lot. A lot of them have a very hard time getting a diagnosis or figuring out who to go to get a diagnosis, because not everyone diagnoses adults. And unfortunately, there have been people who have gone to seek out a diagnosis, and the professional poo-pooed them and did not listen to what they were actually saying, which is so frustrating. And many others have written to us and said, is it something I should pursue? Is it worthwhile to pursue it? And I think just hearing what you've said about, that self-acceptance piece of understanding, of having a deep understanding that there's nothing wrong with you, that you are not broken, man, I can't imagine how worthwhile that would be, and how that must help you as a parent to be able to then help your child.
For sure. I mean, he presents differently from me. We're not identical, but I'm able to understand, I believe, a lot of the sensory issues. And we talk through a lot. There's a lot of talking, a lot of dialogue, a lot of this is how your brain works. And being able to give him that identity and learn for him to self-advocate is, to me, honestly, the most important thing. So we talk about differences, and we talk about the kind of challenges that he has, and how some things might be more difficult for him, and they might be super easy for me or for other people that he knows. And some things might be easy for him, but that's not the case for other people. And so together we're able to kind of build empathy for other people as well, and to understand that not everybody has the same perspective. And I think that will really help him a lot in life in general.
It's a remarkable thing. Now, it wasn't enough for you to just gain this information and be able to help your son. You now have decided to take it a step further in many different ways, but talk to us a little bit about Completely Inclusive.
So that was started, well, it's actually an interesting story. That was started actually when I was doing some work with Autism Canada, and we went to Parliament to speak to the government about different issues that were happening with autistic adults. And I came home from that visit, and I spoke to my son. At the time, he was 8, and I said, what I did today is to kind of help you, so that when you're an adult, you'll be able to hopefully get a job easily and be integrated into the workplace. And I'm trying to kind of forge that path to make it easier for you than it was for me. And, he was 8 at the time. He says, well, Mom, you've got 10 years. I'll be 18. That's fine. You've got 10 years to do this. And when he said that, I was like, well, actually, you know what? Maybe he's right. The audacity of a child to say, you've got 10 years. That's not so bad. What's the problem,
Right.
Mom?
You can get it done in 10.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
So I said, you know what? Okay, let's go for it.
Challenge on.
Pretty much. So I said, I'm going to start this company. I'm going to start consulting. I'm going to start working with companies and see if we can change company culture to be more inclusive. And my hope is that by changing companies one at a time, eventually that's going to change all of society, because they need to see the value of things like universal design. They need to see the value of diversity and inclusion. And I just think it's going to spread. And I decided that even if I don't make tons of money, it's important. This is the legacy that I want to leave, and this is the path that I want for my child. I had a lot of difficulties with, in the workplace, and I just don't want him to have to go through that.
So how does this work? Does the company come to you, or does a person who wants to work at a company come to you and say, I need some help and support because I'm doing my job, but I'm having trouble with this, and this, and I wish my employer knew? Do you work both ways? How does this work?
I work primarily with the company itself. If they do signal that there is a particular person that's already there, then I will definitely support that. But I go in and I will do a workplace audit. I will check for accessibility, and again, not just for autism, but for all disabilities. I want to make sure wheelchairs can get in. I want to make sure bathrooms have non-gendered bathrooms, that people feel comfortable. I look for issues of cultural appropriation, anything that would make somebody feel marginalized or excluded. I work with companies as well with their job postings, with their HR manuals, to make sure that the language they're using is inclusive, because a lot of the times they say, you know what, you're telling me that there's people out there, you're telling me there's disabled people out there that want to work with us, but why aren't they knocking on our door? And I say, well, there's probably something about the job posting or about the way that you're advertising your culture that they're not sure. They're not sure that they would fit in there, and you're not making them feel welcome. And so I really work closely. I also give trainings to managers and to staff, because I know even from my own experience, sometimes when you say that you're hard of hearing, or I've been very involved with the deaf community as well. You go and you try to order food and you get this deer in headlights look. And I've even spoken to deaf people who said, they were looking for accommodations at the airport, and they come up and they signal that they're deaf, and the person offers them a chair.
Right.
So there's a lot of misunderstandings, a lot of misunderstanding about what autism is, about what any disability is, and what we need. And I'm trying to change the face of what people think or what they expect to see when they see a disabled person.
Well, I think that that is an amazing journey to be on, and I really appreciate that you're doing that, because I think we all, I sometimes have this. I'm a parent of an individual who was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2.5. I am a daughter of a woman who had some profound physical challenges and often was in a wheelchair as I was growing up. So I tend to think that my mind is a little bit more open to things until I hit a wall and realize, okay, that was me just not thinking it through. And it's always very humbling, and I feel like, oh, even as we were starting this, and I was like, oh, I don't know the level of your hearing, but I was like, why did we not have a conversation with you? Clearly it's working, but I started by saying, talk to us about, because I will be honest with you, for the second time in a week, we had a guest who 2 weeks ago was that I really wanted to have on the show, with a group of people who opted to not be on the show. And I found out later it's because she's deaf and reads lips. And she was concerned about whether it was going to work for her. And I was like, I would have made any accommodation. But it's wrong of me to assume that somebody would know that. So what could we be doing here on the show if we have someone who's deaf or hard of hearing? What would be the accommodation that we could make to do an interview in this sort of a format easier for them?
I think in my case, I can see your lips when the video is back on you, and that's fine. I think the option, if that's a possibility, is to have a live interpretation. And I don't know exactly how that would work in the US. I know that here we do get 90 minutes for free. It's a government service called the Video Relay Service Canada. So that's always an option, that you would have then ASL and speech at the same time. That's, of course, if the person uses ASL, because not all deaf people use ASL.
Yeah.
I'm learning, actually.
Interesting.
I know that for me, I absolutely love live captions. Again, if that's another option, if you had it on the screen on the side and there was live captioning. I have an app on my phone that allows me to do live captioning. So that's actually Google. It's free. Everybody, these kind of accessibility things, and that's another thing actually I tell companies in general. A lot of these accessibility tips or devices or apps are actually free, and some of them are included in when you buy your regular phone, and that's on Android or iPhone. So these are all things that, again, but you have to kind of know about, and asking people and saying, hey, you know what, we're open. I think coming out immediately saying, hey, we're open to trying working with people who are using sign. We're open to trying to work with live captions. We're willing to try.
Yeah.
And I think that really is the first step.
All right. Traven, we're gonna have a meeting about this. We're gonna get on this. So talk to us a little bit about Promo 21.
It's actually really fantastic and really exciting for me, because I met a gentleman at another disability employment event in January, and he was just talking about this idea of having this print shop, and this dream he had was basically to try to find employment for adults. His girlfriend's son is autistic, and after the age of 21, you kind of age out of the system, and there's nothing for people to do anymore. So he said, this can't be right. We have to find something. So he had this idea of making this print shop and hiring only autistic and or intellectually disabled people. And so I said, hey, give me your number. We're going to try and make this happen. Let's do it. And within a couple of months, all the paperwork and everything was in. The board was assembled, and voila, in mid-July, it opened. And we've got 5 employees now working different schedules. Some of them work part-time, some of them work full-time. It's all based on what they want to do and what works best for them. The workshop is made to accommodate them and their skills, but in general, everybody is learning all the tasks that are involved in silk screening. So any of them can kind of interchange, and they can do the different tasks. They're not just relegated to one task. And, it's a nonprofit, so we are trying to get more sales, of course, but really the goal is to give people skills that they can then use and transfer. I never wanted to start the print shop to say this is going to be your forever career. I mean, that's fantastic if we have loyal employees that want to stay a long time. What I want is for people to gain the confidence and the skills that they need, that they can then and go and get further employment if that's what they want to do. I just want those options there, because otherwise a lot of disabled people age out of the school system, and then they sit around twiddling their thumbs because nobody wants to take a chance on them.
Yeah.
And then they say, well, you've got no experience, so what do we do with you? I want to give them experience and confidence. A lot of it is confidence too, that they can do something.
A job is everything. A job is everything.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate everything that you are doing through these two organizations. How can people, let's start with Completely Inclusive. How can people find you if they want to have their business have a check through?
So I love social media. I have a bit of a marketing background. So you will find me on LinkedIn posting every day on both my company page and on my personal page. We have a Facebook account. We have Instagram. Otherwise, people can email me directly. It's kelly@compinclude.ca, and maybe we can spell that out on the screen after. And yeah, otherwise, I don't hide. I don't hide on the internet. You Google my name, and people can find me easily.
Tell us what it is again, so that we'll put it up on the screen right now. Let's go ahead, because some people they listen on YouTube, so let's spell it out for them.
It's Kelly, Kelly, at COMPINCLUS.ca.
Okay. I think, did you get that, Traven? C-O-N?
C-O-M.
M?
Michael?
Yeah. Okay.
P like Peter.
Yes?
I-N like Norman. C-L-U-S.
I left out the, okay.
.ca.
I left out the U. .ca. Okay. So, and then if somebody wants to have some shirts silk screened, or they've got a project that's coming up that there it is up on the screen because he's so good. And they've got a project coming up and they'd like to use Promo 21, where would they find them?
Promo 21 also has a website. It's promo21.org, and there's a LinkedIn page as well. Or you can contact me and I will put you right in touch with Martin Gould. He is the general director.
Okay, you guys, put your money where your mouth is. If you need some shirts silk screened, that's the place to go. Kelly, you are such an inspiration. So thrilled to have you here. Keep us posted on what's happening, because the job piece is so important, and we're thrilled that you're working on it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
Bye-bye. Hey, thanks for watching Autism Live. To subscribe, click here. And if you'd like to check out some more of our videos, click here.